Hello and welcome to this game review. So in this one we will talk about how to put your pieces in the exchange Caro and how to get good coordination between the pieces and look for some kind of useful plan. So we have the Caro takes, so we get this position. So here the plans are quite rather simple. Black usually plays the minority attack, which is called that because he pushes two pawns against three. Usually there is a pawn here. The point being that black wants to exchange on c3 and either create a weakness on the c3 square or a weakness on the d4 square if the white pawn gets away from c3. Meanwhile, white has to play on the king side. He has the half-open e-file, he can put his rook there. Usually the knight can go to e5, and something like f4, bishop d3, this is the usual way to develop the pieces and attack on the king side. So here, bishop b5, you mentioned you're always tempted to play this move, but this is not a very good move, as now after bishop d7, what's the point of our check, right? Because a check is only good if there's some kind of point to it, right? A check is not good in itself because you're not ever going to capture the opponent's king, right? So a check is not good in itself. This is something we have to understand. If you're trying to develop with tempo, then sure. But this is not really development with tempo because after bishop d7, your bishop is attacked. And this is our good bishop, this is black's bad bishop. Now, how can we understand this? Well, the pawns are positioned right like this. Ours is on a dark square, the opponent's is on a light square, which means this pawn will not be in the way of this bishop. Well, this pawn will be in the way of this bishop, in the long term and in the short term as well. So we would like to exchange these bishops if we are playing with white, not these ones. After bishop b5, bishop d7, what are we going to do? If we just go back, why did we allow him to develop the bishop here? And if we take, he can recapture. We have no developed pieces, and we have exchanged our good bishop. So there was no point in this check. Instead, we should put the bishop here. And this is the usual scheme of development. Let's say black goes here, we will play c3 at some point. This is also extremely important. We must keep the c3 square vacant for our pawn. The pawn must go here, not the knight, not anything else, because we want pawns to defend pawns so that the pieces can do something more active. Next, our bishop usually goes to f4. Let's say the opponent goes something like bishop g4, we can put our knight here, the other knight can go here, and this is usually how both sides want to finish development. We can at some point play something like h3, rook e1. Eventually we will get out of this pin and play knight e5 and go from there and play on the king side. While black will eventually start playing b5, b4 to create a weakness here. So this is the usual way to play for both sides overall. So I would suggest going to this position, looking at the Master Games database, and look at a few games by masters and see how they position their pieces and what they do from this position. After bishop b5, knight c6, the bishop is not very well placed, as this is a pin, but a pin is only good if we can use it to our advantage. And here, knight e5 will not really do much. He can always break the pin. Okay, bishop g4, h3. Now we got the bishop pair, which is something good. Castles, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7, and knight c3. So this is what I meant. The knight is very badly placed on the c3 square. Of course, it looks natural to go to the center, but if we look at this knight and look at the pawn structure, what is he going to do? He is never going to capture here. There will always be a pawn here. He is never going here because there's a pawn here. Where else is he going? There or there? Doesn't seem very useful. So instead, a pawn should always go to c3 in these positions so that this pawn is forever protected by a different pawn. And now our pieces can go again towards the king side, and not much has changed. Again, rook e1, eventually put the knight on e5. The bishop should go back to the normal square on d3 and attack this king slowly. But after knight c3, now we will see that this knight will forever be badly placed on this square. h6, bishop f4, castles, And now you see the first problem. This pawn is attacked, and you have devoted your strong piece, a rook, to defend a meager pawn. Right? This is something we don't really want in chess. We don't want pieces defending pawns. We want pawn chains. We want pawns to defend pawns so that the pieces can do something more active. For example, rook a1 to get on the half-open file, maybe eventually f4, f5 to target the pawn on e6. Instead here, bishop d6, bishop e3. Though this is, again, this would be a good exchange for white, because this is a bad bishop, because our pawn is on d4. We should probably just exchange it. And again, the knight should get away from the square, the bishop should come back, c3, and try to maybe attack on the king side. Instead, this happens, and after knight e7, already we have this nice tactic, but you found it on the second move, bishop takes h6. And now after this, not only have we weakened the king, but we also won a pawn. So now we have to stabilize the position and realize our extra pawn. So usually we do this by exchanging as many pieces as possible and not allowing counterplay. So knight g6, queen f3, and the queen h4. Again, the pawn is kind of attacked, and well, it's not really attacked because of bishop g6. But our main problem is, again, this knight. And we should put this pawn on c3 as soon as possible. This was a chance. Knight e2, c3, and then the pieces can again go towards the king side, maybe take here at some point, maybe the same, queen g4. Okay, this happens. Knight f4, and for example here, we can already see quite concretely, this knight is again badly placed. It's pinned to this pawn on c2. And for example, black can play bishop b4. They can double on the c file. And what's white going to do? There's a threat of winning a pawn on c3. You cannot move the knight because of the c2 pawn. And all of this is because the knight is on c3. So if we had only enough time to put the knight somewhere else and play c3, white would win rather easily. Okay, black doesn't do this. And instead, white just goes to take the pawns on the h6 square. Eventually black goes here and creates the weakness on c3, but this is a bit too late. After rook f6, black can't defend h6, and the white checkmate. So quite an easy end to the game, and rather well played overall. But for the future, I would suggest not putting the knight on c3, not putting the bishop on b5, and as mentioned, check out some master games from, for example, this position after bishop d3, knight c6, c3, and check out how they play for both sides, and this will increase your understanding in the exchange Caro. So, good luck.